What is up, my loves? Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we are having a conversation about abandonment and how abandonment impacts your self-concept. And we're also talking about the topics of abandonment, self-concept, and how they impact your manifestation process, your deliberate, co-creative process. Okay, so this link between abandonment and your self-concept, understanding this will make getting what you want easier than ever before. Before we jump in, I have to give you an introduction to tell you who I am. I'm Nath Hughes. My full name is Natalie Hughes. I'm a life manifestation and mindset coach. I make digital courses, meditations, and coaching programs for self-led women who ultimately are living unfulfilled, unsatisfying lives and who want to learn how to love themselves, trust themselves, be confident in themselves, who are ready to develop self-worth and self-esteem so that they can utilize those tools to powerfully co-create an emotionally fulfilling life for themselves. If you're in my world, that means you're ready for rapid growth, healing, and empowerment. You're ready to feel supported, settled, safe, secure, and empowered in every aspect of life. Let's get started. So, first things first, we're going to give some important definitions. I'm somebody who likes to define things. My brain understands things much easier when we've got definitions. So let's jump in. Today, we're talking about self-worth. We're also talking about abandonment. Okay, so your self-worth is going to directly feed into your self-concept. I'm sorry, I didn't tell you what self-concept was in this video. Your self-concept, for all intents and purposes inside of this video today, is just how you see yourself and how you believe that someone like you deserves to be treated or gets to be treated, okay? How you see yourself and how you expect to be treated. That's your self-concept. So your self-worth is more specifically like an umbrella within your self-concept. It's how I believe I deserve to be treated or how you believe that you deserve to be treated. When I have high self-worth, I believe that I am an important, significant person who matters and belongs. On the other hand, when I have low self-worth, I believe that I am an unimportant, insignificant person who doesn't matter or belong. And the definition of abandonment, the wound that we're working through right now, when something is abandoned, that means that you have ceased to offer support or to look after someone or something. It means to have been deserted. So when you're being abandoned, you are not being supported, you're not being looked after, you are being deserted. Another definition that really stuck out to me as I was looking up the definitions for this workshop today is to condemn someone or something to a specified state by ceasing to take an interest in them. And I just thought that that was really interesting because when we're dealing with an abandonment wound, when our parents have neglected us, they haven't supported us, they haven't looked after us, they have deserted us emotionally and all this other stuff that we'll get into a little bit more, in a way we do feel condemned. We do feel condemned to a specific state. We feel condemned to a state of panic, a state of worry, a state of anxiety, a state of stress, a state of, wondering whether or not our needs will get met from moment to moment, a state of expecting disappointment, expecting to be neglected, right? So it's very interesting, although sometimes our parents aren't, consciously and deliberately trying to condemn us into these states of anxiety, worry, stress, depression, panic attacks by ceasing to take an interest in our growth, development, and our well-being overall. That's what happens, right? We can feel stuck in that experience. So next example we have for abandonment is when we are experiencing betrayal, when people are withdrawing from us, giving up on us, deserting us, and neglecting us, okay? And then also this lack of connection. We're going to also define abandonment as experiencing a lack of connection that simultaneously puts us in danger. Because when we are children, we rely on our parents. Okay, hold on, pause. There's a couple different things that we have to kind of branch out into here. Number one, we are human beings. We are members of an interdependent species in terms of evolution. We travel in packs and groups and tribes, whatever it is that you want to call it. We're people who are made to be in groups. And so this is very hardwired into our bodies on a, I think, physiological level for us to get love and connection with other people. We have to feel that sense of belonging. We believe that that sense of belonging is vital to our survival. So when we're experiencing a lack of connection, when we don't feel like a part of a tribe, that triggers our nervous system. We feel like we are in danger because we're hardwired to understand that community is what keeps us safe and protected. So we have that. And then also, when you're a child, you depend on your parents to survive. So if you're getting a lack of connection from your parents, that's going to trigger your little baby brain to go, I'm unsafe, I'm insecure, I'm in danger. These things ultimately are going to create an abandonment wound within us where we kind of feel perpetually unsafe and insecure, and it can manifest in multiple different areas of our life. And we're going to get into that in a second. Okay. So this is what abandonment looks like. These are a couple of examples of what it means, or what your experience could have been experiencing abandonment. It doesn't have to be any of these examples, but this is just to help you get an idea. So if you were neglected emotionally, then that is a form of abandonment. Abandonment doesn't just necessarily mean that your parents picked up and left you someplace. You could have been abandoned emotionally, and that could have looked like your parents ignoring your cries for help. If you were shamed, when we experience shame, we believe that we are a bad person. If you were shamed in response to your behaviors as a child, I consider that to also be a form of abandonment. And the reason why I consider that to be a form of abandonment is because you're not getting love and connection when you're experiencing shame. So when you're experiencing shame, you're being told that you're a bad person. And because you're a bad person, you're now being isolated. That love and connection is being taken away from you, right? When you're shaming someone, you're not going, you're a bad person. I want to bring you closer to me. I want to hold you. I want to cuddle you and all that good stuff. So if you're experiencing shame, or you experience shame in your childhood experience, you felt like you were a bad person, then that is something that could cause an abandonment wound. Okay, so getting more into this and talking a little bit more about experiencing shame. You know, when you're a kid and, well, maybe you don't know this because a lot of people don't know this, right? A lot of people who have children, have access to children, are caregivers, have no fucking idea of anything, but more specifically, like anything that has to do with children's growth and development, just like in terms of their brain, and the way that they're learning how to behave and all of that good stuff. As a kid, you're not born with the ability to understand yourself emotionally. You're not born with the ability to identify how you feel. You're not born with the ability to identify what you need. All you know how to do is cry. You're hungry, you cry. You have to poop, you cry. You feel gassy, you're crying. You're sick, you're crying. All you know how to do, the only way that you know how to communicate is to cry. So your parents' job, your caregiver's job, is to attune to you. And attunement is basically kind of like how we might describe empathy, being able to put yourself in somebody else's shoes. Attuning to another person is when you are attuning to them. What is it that they need? What is it that they feel? how do they need to be supported from moment to moment. So the relationship between a parent and a child should be one where that child is expressing frustration, anger, all of these different experiences. That child doesn't know what those experiences are. That child doesn't know why they feel the way that they feel. And it's their parents' job to attune to that child and to go, oh, do you feel angry and frustrated because it's time to leave the park and you still want to play at the park with your friends, but we have to go home because it's time for dinner? And when your parent sits and communicates to you, do you feel like this and this and this because of this and this and this? That's when you, as a child, learn, I feel frustrated and angry because I still want to play at the park and I don't want to go home. And so the more that you have those experiences where your parent is reflecting, I think it's reflecting, where your parent is reflecting how you feel back to you. It's been a while since I've looked in my notes for this, so I don't ever want to give information that I'm not 100% sure on. So the reflection part, I'm like 98% sure it's reflection, okay? So anyway, so your parents sitting there, attuning to you, reflecting back those feelings. This is what I'm interpreting from you, all of that good stuff. So basically, the more that this happens as a child, you learn how to identify how you feel, you learn how to identify what you need, etc., etc., etc. So the reason why this is relevant within this context of being shamed is, well, it's also relevant within the context of being abandoned, but I'll talk more about that later. When you're experiencing shame, there's a lack of compassion and there's a lack of understanding. Because every single thing that we do, every single behavior that we make, we are doing it because we believe that we're going to feel better once we've done it. We believe that we're going to feel better once we've done that thing. So from that understanding that every single choice and decision I make because I believe that I'm going to feel better when I make that choice and decision, there's not really a such thing as a quote unquote bad person when you're looking at it from the lens of, I'm just trying to do what I think is going to be the best feeling thing to do. And the fact that everybody doesn't have the tools to make better feeling decisions and choices. I'm thinking I need to give an example here. An example would be like, if I feel powerless to get a job, but my kids are hungry, I might feel like the best feeling thing for me to do is to steal bread from the grocery store because I feel powerless to getting a job. I feel powerless to providing for my family. So in my perception, my best feeling option is to steal from the store to feed my family. But if that person knew that there were other options available to them, meaning if they weren't in a state of powerlessness, if they felt empowered to get a job, if they felt empowered to make money, if they felt like money was something that flowed easily to them, if they felt like 1,000,001 different fucking things, please, Lord Jesus, why didn't I change the setting on this? It doesn't matter. We're halfway through this. Okay, so if they felt better about their ability to provide for their families, they would have made a different choice. They would have done something differently, but they didn't understand that there were other choices available to them. You understand what we're saying? So when you're shamed as a kid, I don't know if you guys had this experience, but I had that experience where I might do something and then my caregiver, I remember my youngest older sister used to do this a lot. That bitch is evil. Anyway, after I just told you there's no such thing as a bad person. Well, if you're an adult and you're hurting kids and you're not seeking out therapy and trying your best to treat children fucking better, then you are a piece of shit. And I said what I said. So let's move on. So she would scream at me, "Why did you do that?" And I remember just sitting there or standing there and my mind is just blank. I don't have an answer. I don't have a response. I don't know why I did that because I'm not supposed to know why I did that. Because you're not born understanding why you respond in certain ways, why you think in certain ways, why you show up in certain ways. We're not born with that ability. It's your job as a caregiver to attune to me, asking yourself the question, what is going on inside of my child that might have prompted them to take this action or to do this thing? But when you're adults in your life, when your caregivers don't have that ability, then what happens? They're screaming at a fucking kid, why did you do this? And as a kid, when I don't know why I've done something that's obviously very bad and very wrong, because you're screaming at me, which there was nothing that I was doing as a fucking child that warranted all of that, but we're not getting into that right now. The point is that you're telling yourself, I've done this bad thing. I don't know why I did this bad thing. Natural conclusion to come to, I must be a bad person. I've done this bad thing. I don't know why I did this bad thing. I'm a bad person who makes bad decisions. And that actually feeds into your self-concept. So you can have a self-concept of shame where you feel like you're a bad person. And that's just somebody who deeply just doesn't have an understanding of themselves and all of the things that I just talked about with how they feel, why they behave in the way that they do. And it's one of the worst things that you could probably experience. So if you're having experiences like that, if you had experience like that in your childhood where you were shamed, where you were rejected, where you were yelled at, where you were condemned, where you were pushed away instead of pulled in, and given understanding and compassion and had people who were willing to work with you and support you, then that is abandonment. If you're pushed away instead of being pulled in, that can create an abandonment wound. So whenever you're experiencing shame, think to yourself, hold on, there's a part of me that's been abandoned here, okay? Next, your parents could have put you in timeout instead of helping you to emotionally process. You could have had parents who let you cry it out. You could have had parents who talked shit about you for, having attention-seeking behaviors. Oh, there's nothing wrong with them. They just want attention. You had parents who emotionally invalidated you, but I want to say like emotionally undermined you. Having experiences with your parents where they basically communicated to you that your emotions don't matter. I clothe you. I put food in your stomach. You don't need anything else. You're so ungrateful. Blah, 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 blah. What are you still crying for? Your basic needs are met. Fuck off. If you had that experience, that probably 100% created an abandonment wound within you. If your parents emotionally invalidated you, they told you to stop being dramatic, they told you you're lying, you're not in pain. Maybe if they hurt you, they said, no, that doesn't hurt, that's not true. No, you don't know what you want, you don't know what you like, you don't know what you desire. They emotionally invalidated you if they ignored your expressions of what was alive within you. If they gaslit you, they told you that your perception of reality wasn't correct and their perception of reality was the only reality that was real, that was valid. My perception of reality is that my child isn't hurt, and their perception of reality that they are hurt isn't true or real, right? And lastly, if you experienced anything that made you feel isolated and like you did not belong in your family unit, boom, abandonment, right? So this abandonment wound is going to happen and be created by feelings when we're not feeling connected, when we're not feeling loved, when we're not feeling accepted by our family unit, by maybe our friends, by our teachers, by our caregivers, by the people who we are supposed to belong with. Like we talked about in that last slide, in that last section, we need to feel a sense of belonging in order to feel a sense of safety and security. That's what we are wired for. Okay, so when you've been abandoned, when you've experienced abandonment, then you're going to, as a consequence, experience a sensitivity to anything that triggers feelings of rejection. So when you feel ignored, when you feel criticized, when you feel misunderstood, if you feel slighted, if you feel excluded, then that's going to trigger that wound of abandonment. Being abandoned emotionally, physically, psychologically, or spiritually communicates to you that you deserved to be treated poorly. Abandonment communicates to you that your needs don't matter. So, do you understand the connection that we're making here? Abandonment directly contributes to low self worth. If we take it back to one of those first slides there, what's our definition of low self-worth? Low self-worth is when I believe that I am an unimportant, insignificant person who does not matter and who does not belong. If you have been abandoned emotionally, physically, psychologically, or spiritually, your caregivers, your parents, your siblings, your teachers, your whoever communicated to you that you are an insignificant, unimportant person who does not matter and who does not belong. Of course, that triggers you. That would trigger anyone. So you have that experience, you have that low self-worth when you are ignored, criticized, misunderstood, slighted, excluded, or other things that make you feel rejected. It triggers that low self-worth. If you have an abandonment wound, you will approach the world from the perspective that your needs don't matter. When you have this abandonment wound and you have this low self-esteem as a consequence of the abandonment that you experienced, you approach the world from the perspective that you are an insignificant person who is unimportant, who doesn't matter, who doesn't belong. Okay, so we're talking now about how this manifests into your adult life in adulthood. You could be somebody who is constantly attracting partners who ghost you or otherwise ignore you, partners who make you feel insignificant and unimportant. You could experience being afraid that people will leave you and won't come back. You could, be dating someone or talking to someone and, you send them a message and you feel really, really afraid that they're not going to respond to you, that they're going to ignore you. You might anticipate that they'll ignore you. You might expect that they'll ignore you. You might have expectations of other people of like, oh, well, that person's just, this type of person. That person thinks that they're too good and so they're not going to respond. Oh, because they think so highly of themselves, they're not going to respond to me. They're not going to take care of me. That's abandonment being triggered. Okay. And you might behave quote unquote inappropriately in the face of rejection or where your emotional needs are being ignored. Okay. So your abandonment wound might get triggered and you go slash the tires on your ex's car, or that abandonment wound is triggered and you go and show up at their house at 3 o'clock in the morning. That abandonment wound is triggered and you are, blowing up their phone, sending them 1,000,001 different text messages. When that abandonment wound is triggered, it's your inner child that's triggered. It's you at 0 to whatever years old that is being triggered, and also your nervous system that is being triggered. And from that place, you're trying to regulate yourself emotionally, but you don't know how to do that. So you choose the options that you have available to you. What can I do to get this person to meet my needs so that I feel safe and secure? How can I get this person to respond to me so that I feel safe and secure? How can I get this person to do this thing so that I feel safe and secure? But actually, in those cases and in those scenarios, your job is to learn how to regulate yourself emotionally, to learn how to take care of yourself emotionally, to learn how to soothe those inner children. We'll talk more about that later. So you could also feel anxious that you won't be able to get your next client, your next job, or your sale. This is like in your work, right? You're in a constant state of doubt that your needs will be met. It feels uncertain. There is a huge uncertainty when you have low self-worth because you don't feel certain that you deserve to be taken care of. You don't feel certain that you deserve to get what you want, need, and desire. Okay, so we're going to get into important definitions. This is part 2. Now we're talking about expanding on this a little bit. So we're going to talk about what is a need. And this is very specific to this context of this video because in one of my signature, in my signature programs, there's a module about needs, but I don't know if I'm going to keep it in there. But like that one is different from this. Okay, so that's all I'm saying. In the context of this video, we're having a conversation about needs. What is a need? Basic definition of a need is something that is required because it is essential or very important. When it comes down to needs, your definition, when we're working on self-worth, your definition of what is a need has to change. Most people's definition of a need is what? If it's essential and it's very important, it's a need. My needs are only things that are going to help me to survive. I have to pay this bill because if I don't pay this bill, I'm not going to have electricity. My food will go rotten. I need this bill paid to survive. But I don't have to have money for a vacation. A vacation is not something I need. And now I have to talk about one of my biggest fucking pet peeves in life. One of my biggest pet peeves. It is something that triggers me, but not like it triggers my nervous system. Ooh, it just, like it makes me want to sock somebody. Like it pisses me off. And I think it's just because I have like my moon square Venus astrologically. We don't have time to like get super deep into it, but basically I kind of have that like Venusian connects. And for people who are very Venusian, Taurus energy, Libra energy, Venus energy, life is about fucking enjoyment. So the idea, the stupid fucking idea, you see it on social media, you see it in conversations. Oh, me because I bought something that I didn't need. Oh, me on Amazon getting something that I don't need. And basically like the context around the videos is like, I gotta stop buying these things that I don't need. It's fucking stupid. It's the dumbest thing that I've ever heard in my life. It pisses me off like nothing else on planet Earth pisses me off. Because what the fuck do you mean you're only here for survival? If life was made only for survival, then we wouldn't have theater, okay? People back in motherfucking Shakespearean times, bitch. People back in Shakespearean times understood the importance of theater, bitch. They understood the importance of entertainment, fashion, paintings, creative self-expression, travel, enjoyment, good food. These things are fucking necessary. They are necessary. Okay, sorry. Well, I'm actually not sorry, but I need to refocus because I have like 30 minutes before I have to get on a call. So we need to finish this. Most people have the belief that a need is just something that I require for survival. That is bullshit. Your definition of needs has to change. It must change. Your definition of needs needs to encompass, must encompass the things that are required for your enjoyment, fulfillment, and pleasure. So let's take it based on what we have on the screen here. A need is something that I require because it is essential or very important. My wants and desires for survival are absolutely essential and very important. My wants and desires for enjoyment, fulfillment, and pleasure are essential, I had to burp, and very important. They're all essential and very important. So now, when I have high self-worth, combining this understanding of what a need needs to be, our new understanding of needs with our previous definition of high self-worth. When I have high self-worth, I understand that my wants and desires for survival, enjoyment, fulfillment, and pleasure are important, significant things that matter and belong. If I have low self-worth, then I believe that my wants and desires for survival, enjoyment, fulfillment, and pleasure are unimportant, insignificant things that don't matter or belong. Now listen, when you're experiencing resistance, you might not be thinking in your mind, this is unimportant, insignificant, it doesn't matter, and it doesn't belong. But The fact that you believe these things about yourself will show up in your actions and it will manifest in your thoughts in some ways. Let's talk about that here. So when you've got low self-worth in your adulthood, in your adult relationships, it might manifest in a way of like, I need you to respond back to me to make me feel safe and secure in our connection. But that doesn't matter. That's not important. So I will stay in this connection where my needs aren't being met. When you have low self-worth in your relationships, you might not be saying out loud, you might not be thinking that my needs don't matter and aren't important. But when you stay in the connection where your needs are being neglected, where that other person is not supporting you in feeling safe and secure, you are communicating and you are operating from this place of low self-worth. When you choose to stay in places that are not meeting your needs, you are operating from a place of low self-worth. Do you understand what I'm saying? When you have low self-worth in your career, you might be thinking, I need to make thousands more in order to go on the vacations I want, buy the shoes I desire, and save for my retirement. But that doesn't matter. My enjoyment, fulfillment, and pleasure are not important. So I will stay at this job where only my survival needs are being met. When you have low self-worth in your career, you might not be saying, me going on vacations and buying great shoes and saving for retirement doesn't really matter. But your actions, you will stay at the job that's not giving you what you want and what you need and desire because you have low self-worth with your actions. You are communicating that your enjoyment, your fulfillment, and your pleasure are not important. So you want to know if you're operating out of low self-worth, look at your actions. Your thoughts and your emotions can also help you with this, but you can just right here and right now, look at your actions. Who are you choosing to be in relationships with? What jobs are you choosing to take on? What salaries are you willing to accept? And are they ones that support your survival, your enjoyment, your fulfillment, and your pleasure? People with high self-worth are exclusively available for relationships, for jobs, for environments where their survival, their enjoyment, their fulfillment, and their pleasure are important. If you have low self-worth, you'll stay in the job that pays you enough, but you hate your coworkers. It's a toxic environment. When you stay in the place that's the toxic environment, you're communicating with your actions that your enjoyment, your fulfillment, and your pleasure in your work are not important. That is low self-worth. And lastly, it can manifest, and this is not like the only things, these are just examples, but the last example is that it can manifest in a dysregulated nervous system when you're ghosted or neglected. You experience panic, anxiety attacks, deep feelings of unsafety and insecurity when other people don't show up for you. You thought that he was going to show up, you thought that he was going to text you back, and he didn't, and now you're having a full-blown panic attack. Now, having emotional responses is normal. Being disappointed in relationships is normal. I'm disappointed that this person didn't show up for me. I'm disappointed that this person didn't meet my needs. I'm disappointed that da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. You can be sad when people do things that don't take your emotional, needs into consideration. It's not supposed to make you happy. But if you're full on dysregulated, full on panic, heart rate increasing, hyperventilating, deep feelings of unsafety and insecurity, you're feeling super duper triggered because your friend didn't text you back, because people aren't showing up for you, because you're not making the money that you want to make in your business yet, because you haven't gotten the sales that you want in your business yet, that's that abandonment wound being triggered. And when you have low self-worth, you're operating from that abandonment wound. That dysregulated nervous system experience is your normal and your ordinary, and it does not have to be that way. Next, we're going to talk about low self-worth within the context of manifestation. And just because we haven't been talking directly about manifestation throughout this video does not mean that every single thing does not apply to manifestation, right? In manifestation, you're going to get what you want and what you desire when you're a vibrational match to it, when everything is in alignment. So that means your thoughts, your energy, your actions are all in alignment with what you want and what you desire. When you're operating out of an abandonment wound, when you're operating out of low self-worth, you're not moving in alignment with what you want and what you desire. Of course, it depends on what you want, but my point is that if you want to buy a brand new home and you want to buy a home in a neighborhood that you've always wanted to live in, but you grew up in the projects, if you grew up in poverty, then you're going to, if you grew up having an experience where whether or not rent was going to be paid was always in question, there was a constant state of worry. The experience of the person who is worried about whether or not rent is going to be paid is completely different from the person who is living comfortably in a mansion, who is confident that rent is paid, who knows that they deserve to live there, that they get to live there, that they get to be there. You understand what I'm saying? So when you're coming from a shitty place, when you're coming from a place where you are ghosted in relationships or you're in situationships, you're always having the conversation, will we be together, will we not be together, are things gonna work, he said that he needs more time, he's working on this, he's super busy with his work, blah 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 blah, and that might have gotten a little bit personal there. If you're coming from that experience of a whole bunch of fucking bullshit, stupid drama problems in your relationships, and you're wanting to go to a relationship where I'm married, I'm safe, and I'm secure. This relationship is safe and secure. I feel nourished in this relationship. I feel nourished by my husband. I feel safe and secure in my relationship with my spouse. Our relationship is easy. Our relationship is simple. We communicate to each other freely and easily. I feel safe to communicate myself to him. He feels safe to communicate what's alive within him to me. We feel safe and secure in this relationship. If you're wanting to get from point A to point B, the way that you believe about yourself, the things that you believe about yourself, your self-concept, how you see yourself and how you think you deserve to be treated has to change. The self-concept of the person who's in the connections where, I don't know if we're going to be together, maybe we can, oh sorry, I have other things, you're not a priority, da 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 da. That experience, your self-concept in that is the self-concept that I'm not important, I'm not a priority, I don't matter, what I need doesn't matter, I'm not the person who's prioritized in the relationship, I don't attract guys who care about me. It could be a million different fucking things, but all of those experiences are completely different from the experience where I'm taken care of, I'm safe and I'm secure in my relationship, I'm prioritized by men, I'm prioritized by my partners, I always get the men that I want and that I desire. And a really big thing that's going to help you go from point A to point B is your self-worth. These are foundational beliefs. When you're working on foundational beliefs, which there's another video that's going up, I think I'm going to have to re-record it, but I'm not sure. So that'll either go up before this one or after this one. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, and you won't miss it regardless. But your foundational beliefs are things that are going to set you up in every single aspect of life when it comes to your manifestations. So if you have your foundational beliefs, your low self-worth, I'm unimportant, I'm insignificant, I don't matter, then when you're going to manifest the boyfriend, when you're going to manifest the job, you've got a whole bunch of fucking work to do. But when you create foundational beliefs, when you create high self-worth within yourself, I'm important, I matter, I belong, things that support me in my survival, my enjoyment, my fulfillment, and my pleasure are important, they're significant, they matter, and they belong. When you're in that energy, then it's much easier, it's much more obvious to get the guy and the job and blah, 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 blah. So we'll talk more about that in a different video. Living with low self-worth in manifestation. In your manifestation process, it can feel like you are living on a prayer, right? Your needs aren't important. You don't expect your needs to be met, but you wish that they could be. Oh, it'd be nice if I got that. You might, think a lot about your desires, but when it comes to it happening right here and right now in your physical reality, it seems like kind of unlikely. But maybe in the future, you could get stuck in that loop where everything is always in the future and nothing is happening right here and right now. And the only thing that exists is now. The future doesn't exist, the past doesn't exist. So when you're wanting to manifest things into your physical reality, you've got to be in the now, right? So another way that this could manifest, like when I had low self-worth in my manifestation, there was an energy of it doesn't really matter when it came to my desires. It was like, if I got it, then great. But if I don't get it, then that would be okay. It's like there's an underlying expectation of disappointment because you don't believe that you can actually get what you desire. So you're kind of like telling yourself like, oh, it doesn't really matter. It's like when you're a kid and you want something and your parent is too poor to get you the thing that you want, right? And so your parent's like, oh, baby, like, I'm so sorry. We couldn't afford to get this and this and this. And you're like trying to make them feel better. You're like, oh, no, mom, like, it doesn't matter. Like, I didn't really want it that much anyway. Like, no big deal. But it's like, it did matter. It did matter. You did want it. You did have the desire to have it. You do want what you want. And it's not okay that you're not getting what you want. Are you willing to have the perspective that it's not okay for you to not get what you want? Are you willing to exclusively expect to get what you want and desire? Because that's what people with high self-worth do. It's not okay for me to not get what I want. But you can, with low self-esteem, you have that defeatist attitude because you expect disappointment. And then there are some times when we expect disappointment, but we disguise it as detachment. I'm not going to do another rant because I got like 15 minutes before I got to get off of here. But there's a lot of talk, a lot of dumbass talk in the manifestation community. Be detached. You're supposed to be detached. Be detached. You want to manifest it? Be detached. No, bitch. You're not supposed to be indifferent to getting what you want and desire. You're supposed to want it. You're supposed to want it so bad that you feel like you're going to die. You're supposed to care. You're supposed to care. You're supposed to be connected to your desire. You're supposed to feel your desire. You're not supposed to be indifferent. You're not more likely to get what you want because you're fucking indifferent, okay? So the thing about it is that detachment doesn't mean that you don't care about your desires. I'm going to break this down in a way that they're not explaining properly. They're telling you, instead of telling you to be detached, what they're trying to do is get you out of the energy of desperation, because desperation repels your desire. And the reason why desperation repels is because desperation happens when I really want something and simultaneously I believe that I'll never be able to have it, but I'm making moves towards it in vain. Do you understand what I'm saying? And I recorded a podcast episode. I'll publish it maybe this week, maybe next week. Keep up with my podcast. I'll share it at the end of this, and I'll probably have links in the description, but we'll get more into desperation in that episode. But for now, desperation is when I want something that I don't think I can have, but I'm taking action in vain. I'm moving towards something that I don't think that I can have. That's a feeling of desperation. You're moving in vain. You're not going to get something that you don't believe that you can receive. So they're telling you to detach so you don't strangle the manifestation to death by gripping it so tightly because you're afraid that it won't be yours. They're telling you to detach so that you stop making moves in vein so that you suspend that energy, so that you stop being in that energy of it's not working, I can't get it. In other words, they're telling you focus on something else so that what you want can come in, because when you're focused on what you want, but you're focused on it in a way that says you can't have it, then you're activating that undesired vibration. And when you're activating that unhelpful vibration, you're repelling it. That's why Esther Hicks tells you to meditate. When you're meditating, you're not focusing on the unhelpful thoughts. You're focusing on your breath. You're focusing on the guided meditation. You're focusing on something else. And when you're focusing on something else, then what you have has an opportunity to kind of sneak its way in, right? I don't hate this idea of detachment, but it's not the best. It's not the most effective use of your time. They don't want you to be gripping it tightly because you are afraid that it won't be yours. But I don't think that they should be teaching you detachment at all. They should be teaching you faith. Instead of detachment, it should be having faith. It should be holding on loosely. I know that it's mine. I know that it's going to be mine. I'm holding on to it, but I'm not desperate. I'm not in that energy of having to take action in vain because I don't think that I can't have it. I know that it's mine and that it gets to be mine. They should be teaching you trusting. They should be teaching you how to believe. They should be teaching you knowing how to know that it gets to be yours and why it gets to be yours. Instead of focusing on detaching, it would be a much better use of your time to focus on knowing that it gets to be yours and knowing why it gets to be yours. Pretending that you don't care is not effective, nor is it helpful, because it does not address the underlying problems you're obviously dealing with if you're holding on too tight. Those problems being disbelief in your worthiness or your ability to get what you want. You have to address the shit. You have to address the resistance if you actually want to change your lifestyle. You might ignore it and you might detach it and then get the new car and then get the new job. But that's how you're going to live your whole fucking life, pretending you don't care about shit, ignoring the things that you want and desire. That's dumb to me. So you also can experience low self-worth and manifestation. When you have low self-worth and manifestation, you can experience a hopefulness mixed with worry. I hope that it's going to happen. I think that it's going to happen. It's happening. What if it doesn't happen? What if it doesn't manifest? What if I don't get it? How can I tell if it's happening? I don't see anything in my reality saying it's happening, so it's not happening. It must not be happening. I don't think it's happening, right? That fucking downward spiral that creates a reliance on your physical reality, where you're afraid to have faith. You don't see it. You don't believe that it's happening. When you have low self-worth, it is significantly more difficult to have faith because you don't believe that you can have what you want. So this idea of ignore the third dimension, have faith that it is yours, whole time you have the active belief that you're insignificant, that what you want isn't important, that it doesn't matter, that you're going to be abandoned, that it's not going to show up for you. That's what's active in your vibration. And you expect yourself to be able to fucking have faith and call in this great, amazing thing that you've never fucking experienced before. This amazing love that you've never had in your whole entire fucking life. This amazing income and money that you have never had in your motherfucking life. You have this negative low self-worth active in your fucking vibration. You don't know how to move through it. And you think that you're going to be able to just say, yes, I have faith that it is mine. Like, babe, no. They're setting you up for failure, sweetie. They're setting you up for failure. 110 fucking %. Now, people who have high self-worth, they can show up and they can have faith that it's theirs. It's easy for them to have faith that it's theirs because they have high self-fucking-worth. But if you have low self-worth, baby, you don't know nothing about that lifestyle, and that's okay because none of these things are permanent and all of these things can be changed. So that story of abandonment gets triggered when it doesn't look like you're going to get what you want. Detaching from the 3D, releasing the how is one of the most important things in manifestation because the how is not your job. how the money comes in, where the clients come from, how the people find the money to pay you, how the views come in, how. None of that is your job. That is where your faith comes in, faith that it is happening and faith that it is yours. But if you have this abandonment, when you're looking around in your physical reality, that fear that you experience that you're not going to get what you want is triggered. Like, duh. So having an abandonment wound impedes your ability to have faith. Faith is when you believe you'll get it without physical proof. Your abandonment wound is triggered when you don't have physical proof because you're always looking for signs that you're going to be abandoned. Did you hear what I said? When you have this abandonment wound that you're not healing, that you're not moving through, you are always looking for signs that you're going to be abandoned. Your nervous system is activated. You feel afraid. And because your beautiful reptilian brain is trying to keep you safe at any and all costs, your little amygdala is looking, searching for potential sources of abandonment so that it can act against it, so that it can fight, flight, freeze, fawn its way out of that feeling of danger that you get when you experience abandonment. Do you understand what I'm saying? So when you're in your manifestation process, your abandonment wound is being triggered because you don't have physical proof. And not only do you not have physical proof that what you want gets to be yours, but you're also looking for signs that you're going to be abandoned. This is why integrating those inner children and working on your abandonment wounds is so important. This is why regulating your nervous system is so important. These are not things that you just thinking, it's okay, I have faith, is going to shift. You've got to process that shit on a cellular level. You've got to release that shit on a cellular level. You have to regulate yourself. You have to regulate yourself when your nervous system is activated, when that reptilian brain turns on. Energy is being relocated in your mind. Your ability to creatively problem solve dwindles, goes down. Because your brain is not focusing on creative problem solving. Your brain is focusing on survival. But you can't run, fight, freeze, fawn your way out of this feeling of abandonment and that feeling of danger. It's a perception thing. It's your body not processing old shit from the past thing. You've got to learn how to do that in order to move forward so that having faith is much easier. Are you following me? Okay, so examples, expanding on this. When you're crying as a baby and your parents come and soothe you, this teaches you to expect care and nurture when you cry. On the other hand, when you're crying and your parents don't soothe you, this teaches you to expect abandonment. When you experience abandonment, you are being taught to expect abandonment. You learn that people will not show up for you, and you start telling the story that you can't rely on others because you expect people to be unreliable and unsupportive. You manifest that in your lovers, your friends, your coworkers, and everyone else. You have a relationship with the universe just like you have a relationship with any other human being. That expectation of abandonment is present with the universe just like it's present with any human being. You don't have faith that God will show up for you. You don't have faith that anyone will show up for you. This belief, energy, and expectation has to change in order for you to have a different experience. You have the free will to create any beliefs that you choose. You have created the belief that people aren't reliable with your free will, even though it was just a consequence of your lived experience. You must choose with your free will to create new, more supportive beliefs. Because the universe cannot override your free will and give you what you desire when your energy is communicating that you don't believe you can have it, you will not receive what you desire until you change those beliefs. When you get your energy in alignment with your desire, you are energetically communicating to the universe, I want it, I'm open to it, I get to have it. When you have low self-worth, when you have that abandonment self-concept, when you're telling yourself the story, I can't trust people, I'm not going to get what I want, they will abandon me the first chance that they get. I'm unsafe, I'm in danger. You are communicating to the universe, that you're not open to receiving what you desire, that it's not okay to give you what you want. That has to shift. Are you feeling me? So, next thing, we got that wishful thinking energy when there's that hopefulness. I wish I could have it. It'd be so awesome if I could have it. It'd be so cool if I could have it. But there's no positive expectation. Wishful thinking doesn't manifest. Positive expectation manifests. Positive expectation does. You know what I'm saying? Positive expectation happens when you have a belief or understanding that backs up your desire. You don't have a belief or understanding that backs up what you want? That leaves you with your desire and the limiting beliefs that say you can't have it. And if every time you think about what you want, you think about why you can't have it, and you don't know how to move through those thoughts or shift those beliefs, then you'll stay in that resistant vibration where you're repelling what you desire. You understand what I'm saying? So, you've got to shift these things. This is how low self-worth impacts your manifestation process. And lastly, you have a shit time on the journey to your desires. When you have low self-worth and you're experiencing all of that worry, that anxiety, the downward spiral, you're having a terrible time emotionally and mentally because you don't know what to do with those thoughts. You're fighting yourself the entire time to your fucking manifestation, and that sucks. You want to enjoy the journey to your desire, and you enjoy the journey to your desire. I'm literally about to scream. I'm almost finished. You enjoy the journey to your desire when you know how to shift your thoughts. You're not stuck feeling like shit because you know what to do with it. Lastly, what do you do now? You establish your self-worth. How do you do that? You release the stories that say you're unimportant, you're insignificant, you don't matter, and you don't belong. And then you tell new stories. Easy peasy. You also practice life in the vibration. You practice living in the vibration where you're shown up for. You choose to have faith, and you back up your choice to believe with your feelings of high self-worth or with the new stories you're telling yourself about your self-worth. How do you do this? Number one, if you don't have this already, I suggest you get my free 6 Steps from Stuck to Self-Aware bundle. It's a digital journal. It'll teach you my 6-step belief identifying process. If you're like, okay, I definitely got some low self-worth. I want to understand when my abandonment wound is being triggered. I want to understand where this is coming from. I want to understand what story I'm telling myself exactly so I know exactly what to shift so that I get help knowing what to shift it to. This is the thing for you. This is the thing for you. You will be able to easily identify the stories you're telling yourself. It comes with really awesome tips and also a prayer to help you shift your energy. And there's a meditation in the bundle that's going to help you to get emotionally clear. It's going to help you to develop a new relationship with your emotions, where you're not afraid of your emotions. Your emotions don't have to overwhelm you. It is safe to feel your emotions, okay? Next, I would recommend my podcast. Like I said, I'm going to get you that podcast episode around desperation. I'm either going to upload it when I upload this or it'll be the next one. Long story short, just follow the podcast, and you can follow me on Instagram because when I post it onto the podcast, I'll post it on my story and let you guys know. Other than that episode, my Naked and Noisy podcast has a whole bunch of episodes that can help you, like episode number 33, that's about you deserving to be a priority. That will powerfully help you. Especially, I mean, it'll help you in every aspect of life, but especially if you really resonated with those experiences of being neglected in your romantic life, partners being too busy, you being deserted, and all of that. That's a great next step, free resource for you to take. If you're ready to go deeper, you're ready to get what it is that you want right here and right now, then I highly, highly, highly recommend, I cannot recommend this course enough to you. It is the How to Receive Self-Love Miniature course. There's over 2 hours of video and audio trainings, journal prompts, affirmations, and exercise. It'll help you to figure out your current relationship with receiving and how your childhood experience impacted it. Within the context of today's video, What this course is going to do is it's going to help you work through that abandonment. You'll learn how to work with those inner children. You'll learn how to regulate your nervous system, and you'll learn how to tell stories of high self-worth. You'll learn how to tell the story that you're important, you're significant, you matter, and you belong, and you'll learn how to believe it. Okay? And you'll learn how to allow yourself to receive all that good stuff. Oh my God, I'm late for my meeting. Okay, last thing that I would recommend is the I Can and I Should self-esteem boosting miniature course. I would recommend the How to Receive Self-Love course first and foremost, because that's the thing that's going to help you with your self-worth the most. But I would recommend the I Can and I Should self-esteem boosting course for you to believe in your ability to get the things that you want and desire. So if you struggle with self-esteem, if you struggle feeling like you can actually do this work, you can actually get what you want, you can actually get the job, get the clients, get the sales, get the boyfriend, get the new car, you struggle to believe that you can actually be that confident version of yourself, this is the miniature course for you. I love you so much. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to comment down below if you got something out of this. I'd love to hear from you. And I will see you inside of the offers. Okay, bye.